Hi, this is Perrin Cornell with Coldwell Banker, and I wanted to take a few minutes. It's, gosh, what is it now? It's the end of February. We're 2 months into the year, and it doesn't seem possible. And March is around the corner. March through, July is generally some of the best time to sell property or to buy property. There's more on the market and there's more sales during that period. About 50, 60% of our sales occur in that about 4 or 5 month block. And I expect that this year as normal. Last year, I think everybody knows what happened last year. It was huge. It was a huge year. There was a lot of sales, and prices were kind of off the charts, basically. So looking into this coming year, what I'd like to say is about 2022. I expect the sales will still continue strong. I expect that inventories will continue low, and more about that in a minute. But I think a combination of increased interest rates, because we're going to see interest rates, they're already about 1.5 1.25 ahead of where we ended the year at. I think we're going to see them up a couple of points, maybe even 3 points by the end of the year. So that will tend to slow purchases down, and it'll also tend to slow the housing prices down, because if the interest rates go up, but about the only way you can compete is by changing the housing price. So it won't cause a flop like we did back in 2007, 2008, but I think it'll slow it a little. Slow it, this is what I mean. In 2020, depending on who you're reading or where you're reading, anywhere from 17 to 22% was the increase in housing prices. I think this year will be more moderate, more around 8 or 9%, which is that's a good thing. I mean, it's still a healthy increase by any standard, but yet it's not that wildness that we had before. Inventory is going to continue to be short, however. And one of the interesting aspects of it, that's, the law of unintended consequences, I guess, is we're seeing many builders are no longer willing to do custom homes. They would rather do a spec. Usually it's the other way around. But in this particular case, where we don't know what prices are going to be, they don't know where deliveries will be. I mean, I'm hearing things that putting doors out, garage doors 4 to 6 months before they can get them in, and windows out anywhere from 3 to 9 months. So the builder's got a problem. So by going with spec construction, they can hedge their bets a little bit, because with the spec construction, they can set the price at the time that they've got the house ready to go. It doesn't mean they can get crazy price wise, but it gives them some leeway to make some money on the deal. Whereas if you're going with custom, you're quoting everything up front and then you have to deliver. So that's one of the changes. But going on a little bit, I wanted to say a little bit more about some of the things we've done this last year, which I think you'll find kind of interesting. Let me share my screen with you here for a sec. And what I want to show you is, here we go. Here's Coldwell Banker. This is what we did during the year. Last year, we had 333 million in total sales. That's up about almost 6% from 2020. 700 closed transactions, closed sides. We're the #1 firm in North Central Washington, according to Northwest MLS, based on sales volume and transaction count. In addition to that, we are #1 because we sold 58.9% of our own listings. That's a high number. In other words, the properties that we list, we're selling by far the majority of them. And then per agent productivity was 5.55 million per agent. And that's to be rivaled by not many people in the area. So it was a good year for Coldwell Banker. Along that line, I also want to share with you some of the things that Kristen and I did this last year. Here's about, we did about 40 homes last year, 40 transactions rather. And this next year, we're expecting to come pretty much double that. We're still looking for a third agent to join our team. But here you just a few of the homes. Starting off, interestingly enough, this first one was in Moses Lake. We get down into Moses Lake. We do homes down there. We have some listed in the Quincy area, in the George area. We have some more coming up in those areas. So that's strongly part of our market area, and we're happy to be there. This particular one was on the market, gosh, something like one day. I guess it is one day. There it is right there. The people were moving and they needed to move the house fast, and we got her done. This next house I want to point out, this one is in Chelan, Washington. And of course, our company has an office in Chelan. This was one that we did ourselves, though, from down here. This next one is something that you don't see very often. It's a little cabin in the woods. It's close to the Anayatt River, and you can see the Anayatt River. You can fish almost from your back step. And it's on leased land, which is something you don't see very often. This land is leased by the federal government, by the Forest Service. Very reasonable terms. I think the lease terms are something like $1,200 a month, or excuse me, $1,200 a year. Next house, another just outside our area up in Waterville, which has always been a strong part of the area. There's not a lot of people there, so there's not a lot of houses, but this is a little house we sold. Here's a condo that we sold. Very short time on the market, about 4 days. Here's another home on Tedford that we sold this year. Notice that it was listed at 309 and it eventually sold at 344.5. This is another house we sold. Now, this particular one was an estate. We do quite a few estates, actually, and this was one of them. Here's a house that was a condo, was sold. The buyer decided to walk for whatever reason and left part of their earnest money, and we got turned around and got it sold the next day. So we worked hard on that one. Here's another property that was from an estate. It's in East Wenatchee, and it was again, like I say, an estate sale. Here's one over up on Wheat Ridge. Here's a new construction that we did. This was a spec, and we sold it within just a couple of days of putting it on the market also. This is another new construction we sold to some first-time home buyers. We like working with first-time home buyers. This house on Horizon, that's a over 55 community, and we do several homes in those kinds of communities too every year. There's a condo that we sold up in Wenatchee, and here's a little house over on Dartmouth. We are happy to sell. It had been rented, and it was in kind of rough condition. So the buyer or the sellers jumped right in, put on a new roof, repainted everything, cleaned up everything, got it on the market, and we sold it in just a few days, not 44 days. Here's a house over on Kayla that we sold. It was a beautiful home we sold earlier in the year off of Washington Street, and it was a neat house inside and out. It had been largely remodeled. This is another home you don't see a lot of anymore. This one was all brick. Excuse me, all brick over on South Franklin. Didn't last on the market too long either. And finally, here was a house up by Lake Wenatchee. Now, again, these are only about 30% of our sales, 30, maybe closer to about 40 or 45% of the sales and transactions we are involved in during the year. So that's about it from here. We're looking forward to a good year coming up and continuing to be aggressive in the market. We've got a subdivision coming in with lots of lots that should be approved and final next week, and we'll be doing some homes there. We'll have a bunch of new homes under construction, as well as some customs. And we're just looking to work with anybody in the market that we can work with that is willing to have us as a client or as their agent, and them as our client. And we spend a lot of time with our clients. We emphasize the importance of our client-agent relationship and how important it is to stay close to each other and to communicate. You got to communicate. Anyway, Perrin Cornell and Kristen Bryant from Coldwell Banker, and we look forward to talking to you. Thanks.